Hey there, welcome back. We are still in Module 1 where I'm giving you an overview or an intro to Excel. I want to go ahead in Section 2 here and just talk real quick about what's new in Excel 2019. There's some changes you'll want to be aware of, especially if you've worked in older versions. The basics always work the same, but let's jump right in and I'll show you some of the new features. Let's start with one of the newest features in Excel, and that has to do with selecting. Now, selecting has always been around, but there's a little twist to it now. Before, if we wanted to select a range, we would go ahead and do that. We'd hold Control and maybe get another range. We could click over here, we can click over here, wherever we want. But if we wanted to, for example, deselect this one, we'd have to click away from it and then start all over again. What they've done now is you have the ability to deselect some of the cells you've already selected without having to start over. So let's say again I just select this and I hold Control and come over here, and maybe I get this and maybe over here. And now I say I really don't want these selected. As long as I'm holding Control, I can click and drag through those and they are gone and the other cells are still selected. That's a really helpful little feature. The next feature I want to talk about is the new accessibility checker. For people who maybe can't see very well or disabled, sometimes they can't see when there are little things that might be wrong in their spreadsheet, and Excel will try to help them out by letting them know where some of those things are and what to do about them. Let me show you how the accessibility checker works. For those people that are disabled or possibly visually impaired, sometimes if there are weird things going on your screen, you may not be able to see it very well. Excel has this feature called the Accessibility Checker, which will help look for those things for you and then give you a real quick one-click way to go ahead and fix those things. One of the things that you'll see in a moment is if you look at this word months, this is actually in a combination of cells A and B. They've merged them together. And someone that's visually impaired may not notice that right away. Let's go ahead and look at the accessibility checker. You will find that under the Review tab, and then right here it says Check Accessibility. It'll pop up on the right hand side and it's found a couple of things. Let's click on the first one and you'll see it sees those merged cells we mentioned and it tells me which cells they're in. Now I could come over here and actually fix it, but notice that I can actually click the down arrow and then I can go ahead and unmerge it right from here. So that's one thing I can do. Now I would have to go back at this point and actually move it over here if I want it to look right. Now Excel also found something else. Notice it says default sheet names. It doesn't like the fact that sheet 1 is named sheet 1. For someone who's visually impaired, they might not be able to read that very well because it's small. We can go down and rename this, and I can do it right here, and I can call it My Sales Report. And that way it'd be much easier for someone to actually see what's on that particular sheet. And that's how the accessibility checker works. Another feature that's new to Excel 2019 is the Translate feature. The Translate feature enables you to take selected text and translate it to a different language. Whichever cell or range of cells I have selected, Excel will go ahead and translate it into another language for me. Let's say I'd like to know what the word months looks like in Spanish. As long as I have that cell selected, I can go to the Review tab, choose the Translate option, and you'll see the translator appear on the right. The very first time you do this, it will take a minute to load the translator, but then after that, it pops up just like this. Now here's the word months I have selected, and down here I can pick the language I'd like to see months translated into. So you can see that if I wanted Spanish, for example, I can choose it right there. You can also do it in reverse. If you happen to have Spanish text out here somewhere, see how I can flip this and it tells me this word is the Spanish word and this is the English word. And that's pretty cool when you want to work with translations and see what words look like in another language. Another new feature that Excel has is a new function called concat. We used to have one called concatenate, and that would actually merge two cells together in the same cell, and that is still there, but it's going away. So I want to show you how this works because it'll be the same with a couple of additional new features. We used to have a feature called concatenate, and what concatenate would do was take two cells, like maybe Sarah Kling here, and merge them together in the same cell. There are times when you want to do that. Keep in mind, if you're going to sort and filter, you do want to keep these in separate columns, but let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to right click on column D and insert a new column there so that we can put our merged cells in. Now I'm going to start with the equal sign because I am writing a formula. I'm going to put CON, and that brings up all the functions that have CON in them. Now here's the old one, concatenate, right here. You can see it has a yellow, what we call a yield sign. That means that that particular function is getting ready to go away soon. This new concat has actually replaced it. What I'm going to do is double click on concat to stick it in there. And the first thing it wants to know is what's the first piece of text I want to merge. That would be Sarah. I'm going to put my comma, and then it wants to know what the second piece of text is, and that would be Kling in this case. And that's all I want. I'll go ahead and hit the enter key, and there's Sarah Kling. It's merged those two pieces of information together. Now you'll notice there's no space in there. In order to get the space, I just double clicked so that we can edit our formula. You want to click after that comma and before the C, because you're going to add an open quote, a comma, a space, a close quote, and then a comma. That tells Excel there's another piece of data in there, and the space in there is what I'm looking for. I'll go ahead and hit the enter key, and now you can see it's got the space. I can copy this down and have all of these. Now let me go ahead and delete this. The concat function also has an additional thing that it will do. Let's say that you want to take all of these, for example, and merge those into one cell. All we'd have to do is come over here and start with our equal sign. We'll put our concat in again. And now what we'll do is select all of these and hit the enter key, and now you'll see that it's actually put those all in one cell. Now there's no way you can go back and put the spaces in unless you manually do it, but you'll see this goes on and on and on forever, especially if you had a long list like this. So that's what the concat feature will do for you. Those are just a few of the new features that are in Excel 2019. As we go through this series of videos, I'm going to point out some of the other new features, and we'll see how to use those as well. Let's go ahead now and jump into section 3, where I can give you a course overview, and that way you know what to expect as you go through this course.